Hello, everybody. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you very much for joining me, giving me just a little piece of your day. You know that I appreciate you. We have a lot of things to talk about, including Georgia football head coach Kirby Smart. We have to talk about him because he's making news with his actions. It's reached the national level now. So now when the entire nation is talking about Georgia, it's time to open up a little bit of a discussion, and it's the same discussion that we have on and off and have had on and off forever and always about college athletes and should they be paid and how they have no power in a situation and in a system that they almost willfully want to be in, but at the same time, I don't think they have the wherewithal to get out of. So we're going to talk about that, but before we jump into anything too serious, let's talk about the platforms. Where can you find us? Where can we find you? Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Those are the best places to look for us. Search Hot News Talk Radio. We are the first thing that comes up. And we always respond to you, your first in news in the Tennessee Valley area. Also, if you are on YouTube, you not only get to comment and reply, but you get to watch our classic episodes. We don't call them old. I have to hesitate there a little bit. They're classics, okay? You can also listen to us live on hotnewstalkradio.com and in the TuneIn Radio app. The TuneIn Radio app. It's completely free if you have an iPhone or an Android phone in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. Make sure you get that, and the Bloom Sky app. You can search Chattanooga for weather, and that's how you can get Hot News Talk Radio weather as fast as humanly possible. So now that we've done all of that, all the intro work, it's time to talk about Kirby Smart, because he's done something that seems to be, for a man that is the head coach of a bunch of young athletes, a bunch of young men looking up to him, it seems to be the most childlike and petty thing that you could possibly do in his position. Of course, we all know that the previous head coach of the University of Georgia was Mark Richt, and he was fired at the end of last season, just for not anything in particular, just not winning championships. I mean, he always had winning records. He always had good teams. He just never won the big games and was never really a contender for a championship, and that's why he was fired. But again, Mark Richt, for those who know him, and even those who don't know him, know that he's a good Christian man. That is something that has always been very well known about him. And Mark Richt was fired for not winning, which this is sports. I mean, that happens. I mean, as much as you want to feel bad for a guy not winning, that gets people canned. It just does. But what happened is that some of the players left at the University of Georgia wanted to follow him to the new school where he got hired, the University of Miami. And Kirby Smart, who is the head coach there now, has chosen to deny the transfer of these players. He's chosen to deny it. And this is a multi-tiered problem, right? Because you've got the first level of the problem where the system allows for the head coach to deny a transfer. That the person who probably would have the most conflict of interest with the transfer with regards to a guy transferring to a rival or somebody transferring to another school in the state. He's got the biggest conflict of interest, and he has the power to decide whether or not a kid can transfer, which seems strange to me for a number of reasons. And again, you know, there have been many pundits today on the national level and otherwise expressing their outrage that this is something that can even possibly happen. So I'm not even going to try and jump into the band of expressing outrage and expressing anger and fury that how dare Kirby Smart do this, because, I mean, it's been done enough already. But certainly there's a system that allows a coach to be able to do something that he's already got more power than the student athlete. And here's another power that he has over them. And ironically, and then the kicker here is this: he has the power to stop a student athlete from doing something that he himself can do. Any head coach of any football program can just leave. We've seen it happen before. We've seen coaches leave before bowl games. We've seen coaches leave and go to other schools, not mid-season, but certainly before the season starts. You have a bunch of recruits. You see a better opportunity at a bigger school. It's got more money. You jump the ship and leave those players that you recruited to that school behind. And if those players wanted to leave and follow you, the coach that fills your previous position can tell them no. How unfair is that? That you have the ability to tell players they can't do something you can do. And you can stop them whenever it suits your interest. Which is always suits your interest to say no. If a player is playing for Tennessee and they want to go to Alabama, if they're really good, you're going to say no. You can't transfer to anyone inside the SEC because we've got to play them. And we don't want to play you. There's a reason why we recruited you. But what makes this thing interesting with Kirby Smart, like level 2 of this, is really, Kirby? Really? I'm not outraged so much as I don't understand the mindset of blocking these players, because they're not leaving your school to go play inside of the conference. They're going to the ACC. They're going to a school that you don't play ever. You don't play Miami. All right? You just don't play them. And here you are denying access to somebody who they came to Georgia. What they thought they were getting into was Mark Richt. They thought they were probably getting into another system. They might be playing for you. They might not fit your system very well. And ergo, they might not even play. They might not even play. And you're telling them, nope, you can't go. You stay right here. There's a level of bitterness, of micromanaging, of heartlessness that it takes to do that and to be that. It does. And it's very small of Kirby Smart to do. And I want to say, like, this is not the foot that you want to start off on as your first year of the University of Georgia head coach. Because here's the thing, like, we talk about Lane Kiffin all the time with the University of Tennessee. He's a great example of somebody that didn't necessarily do anything wrong. Like, Lane Kiffin, for all of the things that happened at Tennessee, aside from him not winning, his leash was particularly short because of how he acted and how he treated others. Kirby Smart is in a position at Georgia where if he doesn't win, and he doesn't win immediately, he's going to be heavily scrutinized. And that's going to be one of the things that comes up on that resume. And you're a first-time head coach of a football program, you're not going to be able to pull what Lane Kiffin pulled and jump away to another program. You're going to be a coordinator and assistant for the end of your days. Because that is a terrible way to treat people. And if you treat people poorly, don't be surprised when, like a boomerang, it comes back around and hits you in the head. You cannot treat people poorly. The only way that Kirby Smart gets past this and over this is if he wins. But this is how sports work. Like, if ultimately he's a winner, if ultimately he's hoisting some kind of championship and he's always a contender and he can beat Alabama and he can beat Tennessee and win those big games, then hey, all is forgiven, which is in and of itself very weird. But that's the only way. But like, you give yourself this much shorter leash. You give yourself a much, much, much shorter leash if you don't treat people nicely and with respect. He's not treating these players well. You don't think that people will look at Kirby Smart denying transfers and go, you know what? What if I go to Georgia and things don't work out for me? Is Kirby Smart going to tell me I can't transfer? Is that what he's going to tell me? Because that's what it feels like. And that kind of thing does trickle down and does come back to bite you later on. It does. And inside of this story, and you're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me, giving me just a little bit of your time. I'm talking about Kirby Smart and his denial of a few of his players to play for the University of Miami, and that he's coming off very petty and very small. But the other issue of this is college athletes, collegiate athletes, don't have a lot of power and they don't get paid for what they do. What they're doing is they're putting their bodies on the line for entertainment and for the basically promotion for the school. They're promoting the school. They're making the school look good, and they don't get paid for it, and they don't have a lot of power. Again, I mean, you have situations where, like the Northwestern University, the players tried to unionize. The court told them, no, you can't unionize. But, well, why not? They're labor. And they're not getting paid in money, and they're not getting paid in cash, but they're labor. And the least that you could do for them is provide them some kind of power. Some kind of power that if players want to transfer out of schools, they can. Okay, there's no other thing that you can do on a college campus where you wouldn't be allowed to transfer to another school if you felt like they were doing it better. Okay, you already have the penalty where if players transfer, they have to sit out a year. Okay, and I get that. Like, I actually understand that. It stops players from transferring anytime they feel like it. So you transfer, and then you're like, okay, I've got to think really hard about this. I'm going to sit out a year if I do transfer. But if I do want to go, and if I don't mind sitting out the year, then guess what? I should be able to transfer. My head coach shouldn't have a say in what school I want to go to play football. It's my trade. I'm plying my trade. Some guys, not everybody, some guys are majoring in football. Okay? This goes for all the sports, really. Basketball, baseball, what have you. Some guys and women are majoring in whatever sport it is that they're playing. I'm going to go more so guys because the professional level of sports treats men better than it does women. So you're more likely to be a guy trying to make it beyond. But you could be a woman doing it too. There is a level where this isn't fair, where you're trying to ply your trade. That if I took communications and I majored in communication and broadcast journalism, okay? If I wanted to switch to another school, and I have, I did it. I've done it twice. I transferred to 2 different schools. If I felt like one school wasn't doing it for me, the money was too much, whatever, or the school just didn't live up to the expectations that I had, you know what I can do? I can transfer. I can get out of there and go to a school that I think is better. I could do it between semesters. I can transfer as many times as I want because that's my right as a student. The reason why college athletes can't transfer is, surprise, surprise, money. It all comes back to money. That the coaches don't like it when students transfer because that is somebody that could potentially win games for them having the ability to leave. Okay, and this goes to the top. This goes to Mark Emmert, the head of the NCAA. He's got to be the guy that looks at this and goes, this isn't fair. But I can't trust Mark Emmert to do that. Okay, this is where your outrage should be directed and where it should be more justified. Like, yeah, Kirby Smart is small and petty for what he's done, but he's not the only coach that does it. When you do look at the ranks of coaches in collegiate sports, you see coaches that have this distinct, I want to say, lack of empathy. Like, they just don't empathize with the plights of their players very well. You just don't understand what those guys are going through very well. And you're out for number one in a lot of ways. Like, these guys winning for you, it doesn't seem to have that. It doesn't seem to have as much weight as just the guy learning from you in that locker room. Because if you're jumping away to jump to the next biggest contract, then yeah, it's about you. And coaches in college sports, more so than players, you'd have to be a truly transcendent player, a Robert Griffin III, a Cam Newton. We see Derrick Henry out of Alabama. You'd have to be a transcendent type player to have the stardom in college sports. Coaches are the real stars in college sports. They're the ones that are there after their players leave, after their players graduate, that continue to be there. Nick Saban is more of a superstar than any Alabama that came out, and any Alabama player that came out in the last decade. He's the superstar there. He's the reason why they have the championships, because he's winning with all of these different rosters and under all of these different scenarios. So with coaches, while coaches do care about their players, and I'm not suggesting that they don't, while they do care about their players, it is more about the coach in a lot of instances than the player. So you can't leave it up to the coaches to make the decision of empathy, but you can, as the head of the NCAA, if you're Mark Emmert, you can say this is not a power that a coach should have because it is a conflict of interest. And you can take it away. But I don't know if I can trust Mark Emmert to do that because Mark Emmert does whatever is best for the NCAA financially. I mean, it doesn't even matter what the reputation of the NCAA is. Like we've said for years. And when I say we, I mean myself, other pundits, other fans. We wanted a college football playoff because we're not sure that we're getting the best team in the championship game. We're not getting the best teams. We're not sure if we're getting the best games. We're not sure if the best team is actually winning because there's too much reliance on polls and computer rankings and all of these things. Like people have said that for years, that the current system of college football, it's unfair, it's unfair, it's unfair. And Mark Emmert was like, no, we're not doing a playoff. It's fine. It is what it is. It's fine. We're not changing anything. And then finally, one day when a plan pops up that makes a ton of financial sense, then Mark Emmert changes his tune and jumps on board to the college football playoff that everybody was asking for years. We were asking for years and we never got it. And here's something that might take away money from the NC2A. It's going to definitely take money possibly away from the coaches if players are able to transfer away and coaches are losing players at a high enough rate that they can't consistently field a team that consistently allows them to win. And if they don't consistently win, then their jobs are always hanging in the balance. And that's just less money overall, right? Coaches are going to be against that. Okay, but the NCAA is not about the coaches. It is in terms of the stardom, but in terms of what the actual point of college athletics is, it's the college athletes. That's who we tune in to watch. We don't tune in to watch Nick Saban. Nick Saban, as a result of what those players do for him for free, becomes a star and a household name because he is a brilliant coach. But we tune in to watch the athletes do what they do best. And we on a certain level like that they don't get paid, not because we don't want to see people make money for their hard work, but there's something about the way that you play when you don't get paid that looks like you've got more pride for the name on the front of the jersey than the one on the back if you're not concerned with money. Like if you're not playing for money, then you're playing for Alabama. If you're not playing for money, then you're playing for Tennessee. And you're really with the team, which I think is ridiculous in as much as players that play in any other sport, they're sold out for the team that they're on. It's the guys in the locker room that they play for, not necessarily Tennessee, the Vols, and all that stands for, whatever that means to you. But that's what you want to believe. And if we continue to believe this, we're going to be trapping players and we're going to be trapping athletes in positions where they don't make money because in order for college sports to have this legitimate feel, and certainly this feel that is different than the NFL, even though, I mean, you just look at the way that the sport is played, it is different from the NFL just on every level. In order for you to feel like that's somehow different, it has to be amateur. So along with not having any money, the players don't have any power either. And they just do what their coaches tell them to do, even if they don't want to. Even if they're saying like, look, I understand that you're the head coach of this team, but you're not the coach that brought me in, and I don't think I fit your system. I don't think you're going to play me. I don't think we're going to play well with me in this system. And honestly, I formed a relationship. I formed a bond with the coach that was there previously. Mark Richt meant a lot to a lot of players on that team. And if they want to go play for him because of how much he meant for them, they should be able to go. And they can go, but they're going to lose their scholarship, which if you hear the arguments, that's the reason why they shouldn't get paid, right? Is because they get a scholarship. Well, they can't transfer without losing the scholarship. So they could go to another school, but then they'd have to pay for it. So now you're paying to play college athletics. You're putting your body on the line, and you're paying actual money to do it. On top of class, on top of work, on top of all of your other responsibilities. It's just not right. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. We're going to get into some more lighthearted things because let me tell you what, LeBron James continues to say things and do things on Twitter. Kyrie Irving is his friend that is looking at all the weird things that he's saying on Twitter and cringing and telling LeBron not to do these things. And we're going to get into LeBron and more of his weirdness next. I have a Hawks take. Again, the Atlanta Hawks are going to probably make it to the Eastern Conference semifinals, but can they go further than that? More on that. Clutch with Keon Rose next.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
We're going to kill them all. We're going to kill them all. Let them cough. Let them wheeze. Let them sneeze. We're going to kill every one of them.
We're going to stop you dead in your tracks. Black mold has been known to mimic ailments such as asthma, emphysema, and other ailments that affect the well-being of your body. Black mold is the silent killer. Fight back today with a free estimate from PuroClean. The paramedics of property damage is PuroClean. Call 875-6136 for your free inspection and estimate today. And no, bleach does not kill mold. In fact, bleach is primarily made up of water and adds more moisture to your mold. The mold experts at PuroClean use proven products and state-of-the-art science equipment. They'll remove all traces of that deadly killer black mold. Call PuroClean now at 875-6136. Plus, your homeowner's insurance may cover it. Call PuroClean today at 875-6136.
We're going to kill every one of them.
Not if PuroClean has anything to do with it. Call PuroClean today at 875-6136.
Staying mild out there through the nighttime with more clouds pushing in. Can't rule out late shower, lows mid-50s. For Thursday, breezy, highs upper 60s. Showers and a few strong storms will march in late in the afternoon and evening. Drying out later tomorrow night with more sunshine for Friday. Whether you've never been to church or it's just been a long time, you're welcome at Abba's house this Easter. Every family will receive a book that will help you understand the Bible. Easter Sunday morning at 10:30. More at abbashouse.com. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ford.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. 492 vials of Demerol, a very powerful sedative, were stolen from Erlanger Hospital. Police say they were stolen by a former employee. According to the arrest affidavit, Beth Cagle admitted to stealing what she called a lot of narcotics from Erlanger over the course of several months. Cagle's charged now with possession of narcotics for resale, 5 counts of burglary, tampering with evidence, and theft over $500. This is not the first time that this has happened, and Cagle's security code was used to gain access, meaning that her security code was still active at Erlanger Hospital following her firing. District Attorney Neil Pinkston released a statement about what he calls the failed violence reduction initiative, saying in part, ultimately the mayor and the city council bear responsibility for the success or failure of their own initiative. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240.
So LeBron James is a strange person, and you have those friends, right? You have a friend that always he embarrasses you in public. He or she embarrasses you in public, and they don't embarrass you by anything they necessarily say to you. It's just stuff that they say, and you're associated with them, and you have to figure out how you're going to put a little distance between you and whatever that is. That is LeBron James and Kyrie Irving. LeBron James and Kyrie Irving is you and your awkward friend, and your awkward friend keeps saying weird stuff and doing odd stuff on social media. He just tweets weird things at 3 a.m, and you're just like, nobody cares, man. Like, stop. Except everybody kind of cares because your odd friend is LeBron. Like, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? Because Kyrie Irving is trying to make LeBron stop saying weird things, and it's funny because it's an escalation. It's like a nuclear escalation. LeBron tweets and says strange things on Twitter. He unfollows the Cavaliers. He has a hashtag that says "Win One for the Land," which is referring to Ohio. Win one for Ohio, and he deletes that from his profile description. And just all of these weird things, because of course LeBron James knows that we're talking about it, and he knows, and he's trolling all of us, and he's getting the last laugh. But more importantly than all of that, LeBron is just doing as he pleases, and Kyrie Irving is the friend that is looking over at his buddy being weird and trying to figure out what to say. And when LeBron starts to tweet things that are just cryptic and bizarre, in order to tell LeBron on Twitter not to be cryptic and bizarre, Kyrie himself now has to be cryptic and bizarre. And when people ask LeBron James about why he unfollowed his own basketball team on Twitter, LeBron James had nothing to say. He had no answers. He didn't want to have answers. And I gave you my tepid take yesterday, the tepid take being that LeBron James doesn't want to lose attention to Kyrie, or to Steph Curry, rather. Steph Curry is sucking up all the attention in the league. That everybody that's watching basketball right now, if you're watching basketball, you're paying attention to Steph. You're not paying nearly as much attention to LeBron because you know what LeBron is. LeBron is a freight train dunking on you. And we've seen that for more time than we've seen any of the things that Steph Curry does. Any of the stuff. And so LeBron is just saying stuff to just get attention. But hilariously, it's none of it is basketball stuff. Like, he is getting the attention. It's working, right? It's working, but none of it is basketball stuff. We're just talking about LeBron being weird. Is that even the kind of attention that you want? And Kyrie is the tweets are interesting. So I'm gonna read some of them for you because I can't help it. This is too funny, man. LeBron starts to tweet about basically LeBron is the leader of the team, as you might have guessed, right? And so LeBron is saying things, but like, would he say it to the locker room? No, he says it to people on Twitter. He puts it on Twitter for everyone in the world to see. And his first tweet is, "It's this simple. You can't accomplish the dream if everyone isn't dreaming the same thing every day. Nightmares follow. Hashtag the DC, hashtag SFG. Structure and consistency create perfection. You shortcut, you come up short. Straight up." And then Kyrie with the tweet that now has to say to LeBron, like, dude, stop. You're weirding everybody out. It's not cool. And it's not funny. Furthermore, nobody's actually learning anything from this. Kyrie's tweet is control what you can control. Sounds so cliche, but it's the bold truth. Good morning. It's just a weird back and forth because none of it is specific. Not one thing here is about anything specific. I'm sure that all of those inside of Cleveland's locker room are aware and know and have some idea, but in all honesty, there isn't any reference point for any of this stuff. It's just LeBron saying stuff and then Kyrie telling LeBron to stop saying stuff by saying more stuff. This is possibly the most pointless story in sports because it's both non-specific and at the same time entirely interesting. This is what makes a non-story. A non-story is a story that you would otherwise not care about except for the people involved. Tom Brady and Deflategate is another example of a non-story. It's a story because Brady, but that story was interesting inside of the month when the NFL first started investigating Deflategate. And then it went on for 9 more months. That's a non-story. This is a non-story. LeBron James being strange on Twitter, except that it's LeBron, that you definitely know the Cavs are winning the Eastern Conference. They're going back. They'll probably find a way to face the Warriors or the Spurs. And you have to mention it because it's there. And everyone's been in this position. It's weirdly relatable because it's like you have embarrassing friends. Everybody they have embarrassing friends. They have embarrassing family members. And LeBron is being the embarrassing family member. Like very rarely, if you see these situations crop up, is it the superstar that's being the weird, embarrassing one? Right? It's usually the guy that's kind of the outsider in the locker room. Nope, it's LeBron. It's LeBron. Like, Kobe's been known to not be relatable, but Kobe never just got weird, at least not publicly. Nope, it's LeBron. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose, and there is plenty of news on the docket. The NFL wrapped up their yearly rules meeting that they basically get together and they decide the rules of the game. Like, are they going to add any more rules? Are they going to take away rules that don't make sense? Which I really like, because you keep the rules fresh and you try and update them and to have them fit into a context that as the game changes, so the rules change. I mean, that makes sense. And they have a new touchback rule that a lot of coaches obviously hate. The touchback rule, the ball will start after a touchback. The ball will start on the 25-yard line instead of the 20. So that's 5 extra yards. This is to increase scoring. This is a rule that's just to get more points, which, I don't know that anybody's going to be opposed to that. Not fans. Coaches are obviously opposed to that because a difference in 5 yards, you don't think it's a very big difference, but go to Pro Football Focus or go to profootball.com, the stat site, and what you're going to find there is a bunch, Pro Football Reference. My bad. What you're going to find there is a bunch of stats that will show you that, like, if a team averages starting on the 25-yard line as opposed to the 20, they're going to score touchdowns more often. You have slightly better field position. You also have better odds of scoring a touchdown. So coaches don't want this because teams that have already, struggled with scoring, they're going to score a little bit more often. And then teams that were already dominant, they're going to become more dominant. Okay, like, can you imagine you give Brady an extra 5 yards? What that does? It demolishes everything. It's hard enough to stop the Patriots already. Do you know what they could do with an extra 5? Good luck. I mean, good luck. I'm really glad. I'm really glad they're in the AFC East. I'm really glad they're in the AFC East. They can just do that alone over there, and we'll keep the Titans in the NFC South, and we'll keep the Titans in the AFC South and the Falcons in the NFC South. It's fine. We don't need to ever see them or play them ever. Just leave them alone, because that is horrifying. What that team could do with 5 extra yards. Okay, so I'm interested in seeing how this rule is going to play out. It's going to be tried out for a single year, okay? And if we don't like it, I guess we just never do it again. And if we do like it, then it becomes a real rule. But to reduce the number of kickoff returns, this doesn't reduce the number of kickoff returns, right? Like, by moving the ball out to the 25, the thinking is that the risk reward to bringing the ball out means that you might actually get more yards by not bringing the ball out at all. But you're starting on the 25. You're giving offenses an advantage. You're going to be kicking more kickoffs, ironically. You're going to give your teams more opportunities to kick the ball off if, on a shorter field, you will score more points. It's just math. It's just math. If you score more points, you kick the ball off more. I don't think this actually is going to have the effect that the NFL thinks that it is going to have. Okay? You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Earlier, we were talking about Kirby Smart and his refusal to let University of Georgia players transfer out to the University of Miami to follow former head coach Mark Richt. And I'm going to reset that take a little bit, but I want to talk about Craig Sager, the halftime reporter for TNT. I think many of you know who he is. His bright and colorful suits. You can't miss them. You have to remember at least one. They range from lime green to pink and polka dots. I mean, Craig Sager wore whatever he wanted. His leukemia was supposed to be in remission, and his doctor has given him 3 to 6 months to live, which is about the saddest story in sports, because Craig Sager is probably the one sideline / halftime reporter that I actually liked to see. Okay. And I say this as a guy that I like David Aldridge, and I think Michelle Tafoya is really good, and Leslie Visser when she was in her prime. And I'm glad that Doris Burke is doing play-by-play now, but I really liked her when she was doing sideline reporting. Craig Sager was my favorite, though, because of how thoughtful his questions always were. He tried to ask really good questions, because sideline reporting is the one thing that, like, nobody really likes. Like, it's kind of annoying. There's nothing that a sideline reporter says that couldn't just get sent up to the booth for the play-by-play analyst to say. Right? There's nothing at all. But here we are with that job being a job and existing. And Craig Sager was certainly one of the better people at it. Like, if you were going to have that job, at least have someone good doing the job. And he was brilliant, and I'm certainly sad to see him have to step down. But, somehow, some tiny part of me really hopes that the leukemia just goes back into remission and his doctor's wrong. That's what I want. That's how I want this to go. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the Sager family. Craig Sager, TNT analyst, given 3 to 6 months to live. There's more of the Adam LaRoche story, because it won't go away. Because I would really like it to go away, because Adam LaRoche wasn't a good baseball player. Can we not talk about that? Is that he wasn't, at least at that point in his career, Adam LaRoche was not doing very well at baseball, and he was bringing his son to the White Sox stadium every single day. His superior tells him, scale it back a little bit. Like, does he have to come every single day? Can't he come like every other day? How about 2 days a week? He's got his own locker. Does he have to come every single day? Adam LaRoche gets mad and he quits. Chris Sale, who is the best player on the team, is standing up for Adam LaRoche, but certainly other players on the team had to have been on the other side of this issue, because there's no way there's no way this is an issue if everybody is 100% on board. It's a divided locker room. Somebody brought it up. That's just how that works. Somebody brought it up. But the issue is Adam LaRoche wasn't that great of a baseball player anyway. And it's just interesting, because usually in sports, usually in sports, when a player is good, they get away with stuff. Like, not everybody gets treated equally. And that's just life. Like, that's not even just sports. That's just life. You don't get treated the same. You notice that rich people get free stuff a lot? famous people get free stuff a lot? It's because you don't get treated the same as everybody else. You're rich and famous, and your richness and your fame actually earns you more stuff than a person who's poor and obscure. It's just how that works. Like, not everybody gets treated the same, and you just come to grips with this in life because that's just how it works. But usually, the person that has the talent, usually the person that has the skills, that's the person that gets the extra treatment, that gets the treatment that nobody else is getting. And when it comes time to defend that person, they're the person that gets defended. That they're the person that is, quote unquote, winning the games for you. I assure you, in the National Stadium, Bryce Harper doesn't get treated the same way that Gio Gonzalez gets treated. I mean, Gio's a really good player. Gio's one of the better players on that team. They don't get treated the same. Bryce gets treated just a little bit better, if not more than a little bit. I was going to use the Braves as an example, and then I realized, like, I don't know who the best Brave is right now. That's a scary prospect. I don't know who the best Braves player is. But the story won't go away. And what's happening to Adam LaRoche right now is that, apart from this being, according to Deadspin, the dumbest sports controversy ever, and I'm almost inclined to agree, except LeBron on Twitter is also a sports controversy that we talk about. Apart from that being the worst sports controversy just ever, it just won't die. And we're reaching a point where common sense is not ruling here. You want to see level heads come out on top of this one. And what's happening is somebody created a GoFundMe to raise money for the LaRoche Family Recovery Fund. It's a gag. It's not a real GoFundMe. But basically, the GoFundMe says this. This is how this gag goes. Drake not only lost his position in the clubhouse and on the team, Drake being Drake LaRoche, Adam LaRoche's son that he brought to the stadium every single day, but also lost guidance and leadership from multiple father figures on the Chicago White Sox. This transition into a normal education outside of Major League Baseball will be tough for Drake, and we're asking for your help. Also, we will be starting a clothes drive for Drake, since he no longer will be receiving custom jerseys and uniforms. If you have any lightly worn clothing, size boys extra large, let us know. Someone took the time to make this whole thing work. You donate $5. You're George Steinbrenner. If you donate $1,000, you're Brett Laurie. And there's levels to this. There's levels to this. I don't understand. Not only will this story not go away, it's formed its own meme. It's its own joke now. And it's telling itself. If you wanted to know what it's like for a joke to become aware, like like in Terminator, like the computer's becoming self-aware, like in Terminator. If you wanted to know what it's like for a joke to become self-aware and self-actualized and start running itself and start telling itself and start funding itself money, this story is very perfectly that. It's that. Now that you've gotten that, it's one of those things that you're just like, that's really a thing? Is that for real a thing? Okay, that's cool. AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. Remember that you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We stream 24/7, 365 on hotnewstalkradio.com. And you can search Hot News Talk Radio in the TuneIn Radio app in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store for your Apple and Android devices. Give us Hot News Talk Radio a follow and press play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. For those of you who need to listen to the David Tulis Show but don't want to be caught in your driveway listening, you could just start it up on your phone and walk into the house. And you can have that in your house. Boom. I just blew your mind. I just blew your mind there. So I have another story because it's fascinating to me because teams do this, right? Teams, you have a great player move on from you. That player leaves in free agency. That player leaves in retirement. That player leaves through any number of means. But, and here's the kicker, that player, he needs to be replaced. You got to replace him. And here are the Denver Broncos caught in the precarious position. Precarious position. I just butchered that word. That's fine. I'm not a professional broadcaster or anything. So Brock Osweiler has left the Denver Broncos. He's gone to the Houston Texans because they offered him more money. And the Denver Broncos have said that, quote, they're trying to find the next Brock Osweiler, which seems weird for two reasons. Reason number one, that it's very weird that you're looking for the next Brock Osweiler, is that if you wanted the next Brock Osweiler, what was wrong with the current Brock Osweiler? You already had him. Why didn't you just offer him enough money so that you would still have Brock Osweiler? That seems like a very simple fix and a very simple solution to me, but that's fine. The Denver Broncos did what they had to do, and then they moved on. It just seems weird, again, to look for the next Brock Osweiler. But the other thing that makes it strange that they're looking for the next Brock Osweiler is that the first Brock Osweiler has played in a very small sample size of games. He's played in 7 games. He's 5-2, which means that he was good in the 7 games that he played, but it's only 7 games. Like, what could you actually tell and what could you actually learn about Brock Osweiler in just 7 games? You learn that he's got potential, and that's about all you've learned. So what you're looking for in the next Brock Osweiler is just a young quarterback with potential, which, go back to point 1, you already had in Brock Osweiler. I don't understand what happened there. That is a single very bizarre thing to see occur in a news story. You can't have, it's not like Peyton. Like if you said you were looking for the next Peyton Manning, well, that makes sense. You can't have the current Peyton Manning. He retired. He's gone. And furthermore, Peyton played an entire 18-year career, and it was magnificent. Can't look for the next Brock Osweiler. You had him. Who even knows what the Broncos are going to do with that quarterback vacancy? So back to the Kirby Smart story, because I'm not incensed and I'm not angry or I'm not upset necessarily, but I certainly am. I guess a little bummed out with just how college football works and how the athletes that do the actual work, that do the thing that we want to see, the thing that makes the money, they don't get a slice of the pie. And I've come to grips with the fact that that's not going to happen anytime soon. I haven't seen at least any development on that front in terms of getting behind players and making sure, okay, this is how we are going to compensate you for putting your bodies on the line for entertainment. This is how we're going to compensate you for this. There is no compensation for that. Players aren't even allowed to sell their own jerseys for money, which again doesn't make any sense because that's not the school providing them money. That's money on an outside source that they can find, and they're not allowed to do that. And that to me, that has me particularly bummed out. But then on top of that, they don't have any power. Players basically do whatever they're told, and it's funny because you end up in the position where some players that got locked into going to Georgia when they were, 18, 19 years old, Mark Richt convinces them to go to Georgia, and then Mark Richt gets fired. He leaves. The players want to follow the guy that convinced them to go to Georgia when they were barely adults, and they can't go because the current coach has more power than they do.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
And he can tell them no, and he can tell them whenever to leave. It's unfair. It's just unfair, and it's broken. And hopefully one day we'll see it fixed. Because, that's literally the one hurdle stopping college football from being truly, truly successful. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And college football is already successful, but you know what I mean.
Shake, shake, shake it at Five Guys Burgers and Fries. The most delicious and unique milkshakes. How about this for delicious and different?